The Nuggets just got absolutely destroyed by the Minnesota Timberwolves in 6, and it was absolutely embarrassing. Going into the season, we all saw Denver as contenders, and we thought this was probably the best team that Jokic ever has been put around him. Tons of shooters, what we thought was great defensive players, and was seen as an easy MVP candidate, but now he just got beat by a Minnesota Timberwolves team that for half the series didn't even have their best player in Anthony Edwards, and multiple other role players for the Minnesota Timberwolves were out this series. With the Minnesota Timberwolves missing Anthony Edwards for the last 3 games of the series, there's no good reason the Nuggets should be losing this games. I mean, you're letting a team without Dante DiVincenzo, who tore his Achilles, and Anthony Edwards, who hyperextended his knee in the same game, and you're letting Ayo Dosunmu drop 43 points on you off the bench, second most in playoff history, and you're letting Jaden McDaniels talk in a post-game interview saying that you guys are all soft defenders. He basically went out there and said the game plan is to go against the bad defenders, and he named everyone on your roster. He said you, and you, and I'm going to come at all of you guys. And that's exactly what he did. You saw it right afterwards. His intensity in the paint, he literally could just drive down there and just score relentlessly. I mean, in game 7, in game 6, I mean, Jaden McDaniels literally dropped over 30 points and hit the dagger in y'all face. It was contested and he hit it in your face because y'all are weak and soft defenders. This really shows that the Denver Nuggets archetype for their team is no longer valuable in the NBA. It's only been a couple years since they won their championship, but a lot has changed since then. We have so much defensive superpowers now, and if you look around the league, you see OKC, Detroit, Timberwolves, Celtics, and the Spurs all are priding on their defense as well as their offense, and that's the recipe for contention nowadays. You can't really just compete with an offensive superpower and have a lackluster defense, because we've seen it this season and last season against OKC that Denver is really bothered by athletes. No matter how good their offense is, they still struggle against these athletes, and they just can't match the defensive superpowers that are those athletes because they don't have that on their team. Jokic is a phenomenal player, one of the best offensive players in the league, one of the best offensive players in NBA history. I mean, you can really compare him to a Magic Johnson, a LeBron James, a Michael Jordan, a Steph Curry, but Jokic can't play any defense. There's a major lack of athleticism, and that's a very important thing as a backline defender in the NBA because Jokic can't play any other position besides center. Offensively, he's going to be in the paint. That's his main shot, is the post hook and to create outside of the paint and create those open 3-point shots. He can't play any other position besides center. And majority of centers that you could put in, sure, we could have Jokic as power forward on defense, but if you bring in another center, then the center is going to also want to play in the paint, and then it's going to be clogged, and then it's going to be pretty bad for the team. So how do we fix this? How do we work around it? The first thing I would do is look for a great defensive power forward to put alongside Jokic to help clean up some of the mistakes that he does make, because he's not a good backline defender. And that's pretty tricky because those archetypes don't really grow on trees. I mean, of course, you would love to pair Jokic with a Chet Holmgren, an Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr., or Scotty Barnes, but that type of archetype of player doesn't really grow on trees and isn't really ready available, at least currently. I mean, if you got him at the trade deadline, you possibly could have gotten a Jaren Jackson Jr., which would have been a phenomenal signing against going with a pairing with a Jokic. I think that could have been a really, 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 really good team. And I think we would have looked at this series a whole lot differently because I think Jaren Jackson Jr. would majorly impact the help of this team. But he's already on the Jazz. He just got traded there. I doubt they would trade him again. So we're gonna have to dig a little deeper. And the only player that I could really see that kind of fits that need and mold of a really good defensive player that you could possibly pair alongside Jokic that could play the 4 is, I can see a world where Anthony Davis is a little upset next season when if the Wizards aren't winning at the level that they need him to, like he needs them to, in order to fill his head with the idea of contention. Because that's one thing he was majorly talking about when he was traded to the Wizards. In an interview, he basically said, I want to win championships, I want to compete for championships, and he seemed a little upset that he was in the Wizards franchise, which had the worst record in the NBA this season, which, understandable. They did also trade for Trae Young, so this team is going to look way different next season. But if they're not winning as much as they are intending to, Anthony Davis could request a trade at the trade deadline, and possibly the Nuggets could put up a package in order to acquire Anthony Davis. And if you pair Anthony Davis alongside Jokic, I think that could be a really phenomenal roster and team. I mean, his defensive identity and versatility is so great as an interior player, and he always wants to play the 4. And obviously there is injury concern with Anthony Davis. They call him day-to-day Davis for a reason. He doesn't really play as often as you would love him to, but there still is great defensive stuff. And as long as he's ready for the postseason, I think Jokic can get you to the playoffs no matter what, and at least get a guaranteed spot in the top 6 seeds. I think that could really be a dangerous duo to be paired alongside each other in the postseason. Jamal Murray and Jokic have been widely considered as the best 2-man game in the league for pretty much all of the 2020s. I mean, they really do pair well against each other. The great offense, screen setting, off the dribble, 3-point shots. They're offensive superpowers, and when everyone got it rolling, that's a pretty much unstoppable team. But Jamal Murray, the last 2 series have been putting up pretty bad stinkers against OKC and against the Timberwolves this year. He doesn't really show that he's really affected by athleticism, and part of it is Jokic can't also get the passes to him as well as he would love to, because Jokic is also being greatly affected by these athletic defenders. And as much as I love Jamal Murray and I love him paired with Nikola Jokic, I love watching that 2-man game, I think it's really time to disband this roster and this core. And I think Jamal Murray might need to be moved on in order for them to get back in contention. I really do think that it would be better for a defensive all-star level player to be put alongside Jokic rather than another offensive superpower one, because their offense is going to be great no matter what if you have Nikola Jokic on your team. So I'd rather them look for something else. I think obviously you would want a Scotty Barnes or an OG Anunoby, but those players aren't very much readily available. I've always loved the idea of OG Anunoby on the Nuggets. I think he'd be the perfect player to pair alongside Jokic. I mean, OG Anunoby has always been a great cutter. Jokic could easily see that. OG Anunoby's offense would be amazing, and OG Anunoby would also bring that defensive intensity that you really do need on this roster. But that's not very realistic because you can't trade Jamal Murray for OG Anunoby when Jalen Brunson is on the Knicks, and Scotty Barnes is not leaving the Raptors anytime soon. I feel like you'd have to offer them Wembanyama the way he's been playing in the playoffs. But so how do we fix this? There's two teams that I do see that are kind of in need of a guard like Jamal Murray. I think my favorite positioning for like landing is probably the Rockets. The Rockets really do need that offensive punch, and Fred VanVleet is getting older. He's coming off injury, so I don't know how well he's going to perform next season if they decide to keep the same roster that they do now. So I think it would really be a great idea to kind of move to a different point guard and go get Jamal Murray. I think Jamal Murray alongside Kevin Durant, Amen Thompson, and Alperen Sengun could definitely bring, alongside with the internal development of the younger pieces, could bring a really great offensive punch that this team really needed this season. I mean, could you imagine this team if it had Jamal Murray, Kevin Durant, and Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun all playing? That could be a fantastic team, and they would definitely have beat the Lakers, and they probably would have been a higher seed as well. I mean, that just sounds like a fun team to watch. But realistically, I don't know if the Nuggets get back enough from that package that they really want, because Amen Thompson is not going to becoming available for Jamal Murray. That doesn't make any sense. They would never give up Amen Thompson for that. You're not gonna want Alperen Sengun. He's not really good enough. They're definitely not gonna get Kevin Durant. So you could only really get some good defensive pieces, as in like Tari Eason and maybe Jabari Smith Jr. And I do think the Nuggets could use that very well. I mean, that defense from Tari Eason and Jabari Smith Jr. would be a big upgrade from what they currently have. And even though Jabari Smith Jr. does have some offensive struggles, I think Nikola Jokic could definitely clean up a lot of that offensive struggle just by creating easier looks. And they definitely need to figure out their guard situation after that. But it's just definitely something I have thought about. Not really sure how that would work, and if that's really enough for the Nuggets to really even consider that. But I would love to see Jamal Murray in the Rockets uniform, and I do think that in order for the Nuggets to go back to contention, they're going to need to disband this 2-man game, because it's just the cap space and the way everything works. They don't have enough talent to go package and get something else other than Jamal Murray. Preferably, I would love to Jamal Murray, Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, but I don't know how realistic that is. Christian Braun has to go. That's one thing that is majorly just has to happen for the Nuggets. Christian Braun is making way too much money, and we need to re-sign Peyton Watson this offseason. Peyton Watson has been an absolute unit this season. He made a major offensive jump, especially when Jokic went down for an injury this season. He was playing so well, and his defensive intensity is definitely something that they needed, and could have probably shifted a tide in the series, and Peyton Watson could have definitely went out here if he wasn't injured and really showed the Timberwolves and probably beat them in this series, but sadly that wasn't the case. And Peyton Watson needs to be re-signed, so Christian Braun needs to be moved on, but I don't really know what you would move Christian Braun for. His value is really down. He's on a bad contract that you recently extended him for multiple years, so you're probably going to have to, if you want to retain the same value of player, you'd probably actually have to give up draft capital, because someone would be taking on such a bad contract in Christian Braun. But I do think it's definitely worth it to re-sign Peyton Watson, and you might want to experiment with moving on from Cam Johnson as well. He was pretty good the last half of the season, but the first half of the season was a stinker, so I would definitely not wait for I probably wouldn't do it in the offseason, but I would definitely wait for trade deadline and see, because his archetype is somewhat valuable, and I could see a world where a team is like, hey, we could definitely use Cam Johnson and swap him around and make him more appealing to our team. But regardless, I do think Christian Brown, no matter what, that is one player that you're definitely going to be seeing moved this offseason from the Denver Nuggets. Overall, the Nuggets have so much work to do. It's absolutely insane. I could probably make an hour-long video just talking about possibilities and the routes the Nuggets could go down, but that's a lot of work. That's a lot of stuff, and I don't have time for that. Um, but if you guys did like this video and made it this far, please like and subscribe. And I can't wait to see how the Nuggets treat this offseason. And peace out, y'all. Love ya.